Good evening, and we are back for our weekly dose or daily dose of Women's Month interviews. And we have the infamous Marianne Littlejohn with us. She's been a midwife for very long. I think she will explain to you how long she has been. We'll give her a minute to introduce herself. But again, every night between 8 and 9, we do interviews with different women. To just explore a bit of our different facets and the phases we go through in a woman's life. So before we continue on with anything, we are going to say hi to Marianne, and she's going to introduce herself a bit, just like who you are and how long you've been in the industry, etc.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Marianne, and I've been a midwife for about 40 years and found myself becoming a little bit infamous for helping women and advocating for women attempting a vaginal birth after cesareans and natural birth, home birth, water birth, and for believing in women to believe in themselves and to believe in the process of natural birth. That doesn't mean we don't refer to hospital if we need to, but my main focus is as a home birth midwife.
Yeah. So before, I must actually tell you the story. Marianne was my midwife. So with my second born, I had a Caesar, my second born, I went to her, and I was in labor for 5 days, people. Let's just get that out. I was in labor for 5 days, but this wonderful midwife carried me through everything. I climbed mountains while I was in labor. I can remember she took me while I was in labor. She took me down to like a coffee shop. We walked up. I think you were still living in Muizenberg that time. So we climbed up the like a little mountain because I needed to get some exercise to get me into the labor. And then we went to go sit at the tea shop. And then the poor waitress was so worried about me because she heard that I was in labor. So she kept on checking on me, am I fine? And Marianne would just say, no, she's fine. She's just in labor. And then we trotted back all the way up, down. And then I slept in because I was really hoping like for a home birth. So eventually she moved me from my house because there was a lot of distractions. She moved me to her house in Muizenberg with a fireplace on and everything else. And I think twice or thrice we thought, okay, the baby's coming, which the baby was ready to come. It was mom that was not ready for the baby. So mom clamped up, very nervous about this whole situation. And I think by the fifth day I was like, no, I'm tired. I'm going, it's fine, let's do the hospital. Let's go for the cesarean. So she booked me in. That was the evening, late evening, past 9. She booked me in. She did everything and she left me. And I was scheduled to go do my Caesar at 7 o'clock the next morning. So around about 2, 3 in the morning, I felt like period pains and all of these things. And I went to the bathroom and I was like, ooh, what is this? So I thought naturally, I'm going through a miscarriage because there was bleeding, because I've never had a natural birth, obviously. So it was like, first thing I did, I phoned her. I was like, don't know what's going on here. No, first I trotted down to the nurse. I said, I'm bleeding. In my mind, I thought I was having a miscarriage. I phoned my husband. I think, I think we're having a miscarriage or a stillbirth, something like that. I told him so. Then she's like, no, you're in active labor. Phone Marianne, I'm in active labor. Not even half an hour later, she was at the hospital, and she just like coached me through everything, let me do what I needed to do. I can still remember because I'm a survivor of rape. My leg really pained, and there was more pain of the leg than the birth. And even that, she pulled me through because I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. And there was a moment that she just like, your body can do this. You need to decide, are you gonna stay in this moment? What are you gonna do? And then not even like an hour later, the baby was there. Like literally 10 minutes before I had to go into her Caesar, like the baby was in my arms, and it was such a liberating experience. Let me tell you this. Um, I was on my knees afterwards, giving birth to my daughter, and I think ever since then, my life has like literally changed. So maybe Marianne, you can maybe explain that. What does trauma do to a woman's body when it comes to birth?
It's such a wonderful story listening to you again tell the story. And I was just thinking, you carried so much trauma from the rape. And when you mentioned your leg, apparently the person who raped you held your leg up
Mm,
during the
mm,
rape, and
mm,
and the birth actually triggered that memory in your
mm,
body and
mm,
triggered so much fear and
mm,
so much anxiety about
mm.
whether you would survive this experience.
Yeah.
And the same with the birth, you didn't know that you would survive this experience
Mm,
and thrive through
mm,
giving birth.
mm,
And many women um, have trauma
mm,
from rape, from sexual abuse, from sexual molestation of them as children, from shame and sexual shame because of the way they have been treated perhaps throughout their lives. And
mm,
then they fall pregnant, and the specter and the thought of giving birth through the vaginal passage and opening that part of the body becomes
mm,
impossible for them to imagine. And
yeah.
so helping many women through a natural birth can be quite an ordeal, and one needs a lot of commitment, a lot of encouragement to help that woman believe in herself and
Mm,
give her the courage
mm,
to overcome the fears and to believe that she can do this and to allow her body to take the natural course of events.
mm,
And you described it so well, Bianca, the fear that you had and the pain and the length of time that it took for
mm,
you to give birth. I don't remember many of my clients taking 5 days in labor, latent
no.
phase, getting the body ready to give birth,
Mm,
and then being so afraid at the time of birth. But I was with you, and we got through together. And that's what a midwife does. A midwife needs to be with a woman and
mm,
advocating for her, being with her in her pain, being with her in her fear and her agony, yet
mm,
believing that she will survive this ordeal, this experience, and come out of it thriving.
mm. What made you become a midwife? Because I think after meeting you and how you guys were with me, my mom was very jealous with the fact that the experience I had with you guys, because she was like, if she only knew back in her days that she could have children like a VBAC after cesarean, because I think even in one of your guys' stories, you helped a lady that had 3 Caesars and then still had a VBAC, and then after she had
That's
more
correct.
children, um, and she was like very jealous about how the relationship you guys have with the mother, that she then started training as a doula. So what made you become a midwife?
That's a long story. I think that um, I slipped into it, after training. It wasn't something I had planned to do, but then I found myself trained as a midwife, and I wanted to have a home birth with my first child. And after I had a home birth and felt how empowering that was for me, and I wanted to do the same for other women, give them the same feeling of self-realization and empowerment that I had experienced as a young mother having a home birth. And I think that, women, listening also to my own mother's story about how she was disempowered as a young girl throughout her life, and how being able to choose to have her babies at home gave her strength to become a mother and to overcome the hardships that she'd experienced. And the other thing is that I really felt the pain and the trauma of what women experience when they don't have the support that they need during pregnancy, and when they aren't prepared for labor. So that really pulled my heartstrings. And then it was only much later. I mean, I was a midwife for 15 years before I started attending vaginal births after cesarean section. And I think those women, the women who had been violated by medical personnel and family members and other people, pushing them and coercing them into a cesarean section, perhaps when they didn't need it. And I really wanted to stand by them and support them and help them achieve the birth of their dreams. And I think, the women, many of the women, in fact, most of the women who have come through my practice wanting a vaginal birth after cesarean have felt a deep sense of empowerment and freedom, and they've come into their own sense of self after having experienced a vaginal birth after cesarean. And some of them, as Bianca mentioned, have gone on to have several more children. I had one lady approach me from Robertson, and she had had 3 cesareans, not for any other reason than that the doctor had advised her to. So there weren't any medical reasons why she needed to have a cesarean section. She came from a very conservative Christian family, and everyone felt that this was the right thing to do, and everyone in the town did the same thing. And this was a very respected, well-known obstetrician gynecologist in town, and this is what he advised her to do. And so she didn't question that until she had had her 3rd cesarean, and she realized that she wanted more children, and he had said to her, no, you can't have any more children. This has to be your last child, when she was pregnant with her 4th. And I don't know how she found me, but she said to me, look, this is something I really want to do. I need to give birth. Will you help me? And because she was healthy and she was physically, she and her husband were well matched in terms of genetics, size, height, shape, and her babies were an average size, which was something I felt was appropriate for her. And she did. She gave birth, and she gave birth at home to her 4th baby, and then continued to have another 3 children. So as far as I know, she now has 7 children, 3 of whom she gave birth to vaginally, and 4 she gave birth to vaginally, and 3 by cesarean section. So she was just amazing, and once she'd had that normal birth, she just, her body knew what to do.
Yeah, I echo what you're saying, because the similar thing happens to me. It's like you really empower the woman. Even when we just did our checkup, it was never about internal exams. It was more about the mother and how you're feeling and the massages you gave to me and the baby, the tummy rubs, and how you kind of informed me with how to turn the baby with how you needed to position yourself. So all of those life skills I picked up through just journeying with you has now helped me after when I decided, okay, this is the person I wanted to become, and it's kind of equipped me to lead that kind of life. And like I said, was when I was pregnant with my third, and you were also my midwife, but then she wanted to come early, and I had to go to the hospital, and all of these things. They also almost wanted to push me towards like, let's do a cesarean because you have had one before. And I was like, no. Um, I know I was in latent phase for 5 days and all of these things, and this was the weight of my baby, and this is how my journey has been with pregnancy. And I think I can do this by myself. You kind of just have to leave me. I remember with my third, uh, they wanted to keep me again because I was close to, they now stopped the contractions about, and they wanted to keep me. And I was like, I can go. The plug is not out yet. I don't have to stay here because I was there for my 39-week checkup. And they saw, they almost wanted to half push me into going into the cesarean and all of these things. I was like, I can go. There's nothing wrong with me. The plug is not out. The baby is fine. I still have about a week to go. And then as it was going to let me go, the plug came out. And then also started to like, let's do a cesarean. I was like, I can do this. Let me just walk it off and leave me alone. Stop coming to nag me about things. I will do this. And the doctor was so surprised, like I told you just before. And it was like, are you a midwife? I'm like, no, my midwife informed me about my body, about my rights, so I do know. And then was like, okay, so we will help you then to um, go through natural birth. Um, and like I said, with my fourth, I found out at 33 weeks of pregnant, and there was no worry because I was like, I can do this. My body can do this. I sent the kids away. I did my thing. I was laying on the bed, feeling my emotions, doing what needs to be done. I felt when I was going into active labor, then I called my mom and I was like, I think you must come closer now. She still wanted to call the ambulance. I was like, no, put down the phone. The baby's coming. And it was like two pushes and the baby was out. We even did the afterbirth at home and it was a lovely experience because I was in my own space with my own things, with my mom there. My husband just missed the birth. As he came into the door, the baby was delivered, and he was with me through the afterbirth. And then we took the afterbirth with the baby, and we jogged down to the hospital like, oh, we're just here for a checkup. And they were all mad because I gave birth at home. I was like, but the baby is fine. And then we left again. So it was all of these empowering moments that you as a midwife gave to me. Um, it was such a lovely gift. Besides having my baby, it was a lovely gift as a mom because it empowered me. It showed me that even through my weakness, strength came, which was my baby. So a wonderful experience. And then what I've also picked up was while I was in hospital with Kate, um, I heard all these other screamings going on next door in the other wards. In my ward, you put the lights off. You were calm. I was calm. You let me do whatever I needed to do. And you just like kept everyone outside. You hardly touched me. There was hardly any internal exams. And yet you told me the baby will come when it needs to come. You will tell me when you need to push. And that is exactly how it happened. Like there was such a lot of freedom in giving birth to my children that I like that really helped me with my life journey. So how is it that we can prepare? Not everyone has that wonderful opportunity to be able to have a home birth. So if you were supposed and are due to go to hospital, how do you prepare to have almost that same atmosphere in hospital, especially now with COVID. Oh, just, just you're on mute still. I think you must just unmute.
There you go.
There we go.
Sorry, I just
Yeah.
touched it by mistake.
Yeah.
I think it's really difficult to give birth and hold on to your power in a hospital situation unless you carefully choose a hospital and your team, the team that you have around you, particularly with your first birth. You know, once you had one experience of natural birth, you could then go on and advocate for yourself for the following births. But you know, to prepare yourself, I think, first of all, nutrition and lifestyle are really important. So the kind of food you eat, how you look after your body, the kind of food you eat, and the kind of exercise you take. These are really important things during your pregnancy so that your body is fit and healthy for the birth. Did you want to ask a question?
No, no, no. Continue on. So, besides the nutrition, what else must they do to prepare?
Secondly, you need to ask questions about what kind of birth you want. You know, do you want to give birth vaginally? And if so, who do you want to have with you? And what kind of doctor are you looking for? Are you looking for someone who says, yes, 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 I'll help you, but then at the last minute changes around and says, oh no, I think you should have a cesarean because your baby's too big, or puts fear into you? Very difficult to give birth when you're afraid. And most of us are afraid of giving birth at some point during the process. And so you need to have someone who is truthful and who gives you the confidence to overcome that fear. And one of the things that most midwives in hospital and most doctors who work in a hospital don't understand that women who are in pain will express fear. And it doesn't mean they want to go for a cesarean or they want to have an intervention. It just means they need someone who listens and gives them confidence to overcome the fear. So you do need to choose your team. You need to choose the kind of midwife you have. You need to choose the doctor you have, and you also need to be willing to advocate for your rights. And for most first-time mums, labor is not an instant procedure. It doesn't happen. It can happen quickly, maybe 4 hours for a first baby or even 2 hours, but it's unusual. Most first-time mums, it takes about 24 to 48 hours, sometimes even 3 days to give birth. So when you first go into labor, most women think, oh, the baby's going to come in half an hour. I have to rush to hospital. And they don't realize that actually it's going to take another 3 days before the baby is born. And you could much better spend that time in your home and laboring in early labor in a calm place in your own house with your own things, your own food, your own comfortable furniture, or your own bedroom, and to only go in later in the labor once your cervix is busy opening and your body is opening and your baby is coming down into the birth canal. So I think, and the other thing I wanted to say was that I think it's really important to have a doula. You know, if you can't have a midwife, book a doula, especially if you're going to go into a hospital, who advises you and who supports you and who goes into hospital with you and can support you physically, because the hospital staff don't often have the time to stand and rub your back, or to wipe your face, or to bring you a glass of water, or to encourage you, or to hold your hand, or support you while you're standing, swaying on the floor. You know, a doula gives you that kind of support and can stay with you in those really scary moments during labor. A doula means also with a woman. In Spanish, it's a Spanish word for someone who accompanies a woman in labor and who is just there to support her. It's not someone who's going to make medical decisions. So you're the one who still has to make decisions for your pregnancy and your birth in collaboration with your doctor. But the doula is there to support your decision, to support your labor, and to help you give birth in the way that you want to. I don't know if that
How
answers you, some of the questions.
it does answer the question. In this COVID times, I've heard that women is only now, or their husbands are only allowed to come in almost as they give birth. Um, how was that kind of like bringing a doula in or affect that kind of situation?
I think a lot of hospitals are not allowing doulas in, and women really have to fight to find a hospital and search for a hospital that does allow the husband or the doula. I think it's really, really difficult in COVID time if you are giving birth to go into a hospital in labor on your own. It's even more scary than it would be if it wasn't COVID time and if you were able to have someone with you. The other thing I think I'd like to mention is that there are things you can do during the pregnancy to boost your immune system,
Okay.
to prevent yourself from getting ill or getting any kind of flu during the pregnancy, because our immune systems are more vulnerable when we're pregnant, and we need to really look after ourselves. So I think that women should be taking extra vitamin D, especially in winter. So you can
Okay.
take up to 4,000 units, international units of vitamin D a day. You can get that from out the shop. You can also take vitamin C. You need to take 500 milligrams every 4 hours during the day, so that you have in total 2 grams of vitamin C per day, but taken in 4 hourly doses. And you need to also take zinc, which is an essential mineral which helps to prevent the COVID molecules from attaching to the cells in your body.
Mhm.
And then I think that obviously wearing masks is going to protect you from being contaminated by particles in the air, and protect others as well from your possible bacteria that you're carrying, and wash your hands. Ideally, you know, if you are afraid of COVID, the ideal situation is to stay away from a hospital, because hospitals are breeding grounds for germs, and that is why the hospitals are so insistent on testing you for COVID before you go into the hospital, and uh, demarcating positive areas where women who are positive will give birth and women who are negative, and the staff have to wear protective equipment and so on and so on. I think it's actually much safer for a woman to give birth at home, so that she's not
Yeah.
exposed to the germs of others while she's in labor.
Mm. I think we're going to come back to the home birth. Here's just a question.
Mm.
It says, what is being done to advocate for mothers, especially in MOUs and in government hospitals?
It's a good question. You know, I think the government hospitals during the COVID time have also um, clamped down on allowing doulas into the hospital with the woman. And so again, it's really, really difficult. The woman has to advocate for herself when she's at the most vulnerable time in her life. And I find some of these regulations quite prohibitive for mothers and impossible for them to deal with. And I don't know, other than campaigning for doulas to come in with them, how else? I don't know how else women can fight for their rights. But this is the thing: you need to fight for your rights. You need to fight for your rights during pregnancy now more than ever. And you have a right to have someone with you when you are in labor, regardless of whether you are COVID positive or COVID negative, and even more so if you are in a COVID positive situation where you need to be isolated. You need to have some kind of support.
How would you prepare maybe differently if you were supposed to go to an MOU? Because there's no there's a lot of women there. How do you prepare to keep yourself almost sane to to get through the scary moments in birth?
I think we need a lot more doulas and midwives in peri-urban areas and in rural areas who are willing to walk with women and not necessarily go into the MOU with her, but to educate the mum. What is labor? What does it feel like? How long does it take? What is early labor? What happens to your body? What are your sensations that you have? How can you tell that your baby is alive and well without having to go into hospital? Those are things that a doula / midwife can train you and support you and teach you, so that when you do go into labor, you're more confident. Also, you can stay at home for as long as you can before you actually give birth. So the longer you stay at home, the more autonomy you're going to have. And the later you go into hospital or into the MOU during labor, the less time you're going to spend there giving birth. Obviously, the last moments of a labor, just before you give birth, are the most scary because the sensations are very intense. The other important thing is to get in touch with your body and learn learn about your body, learn about your cycles, learn about the fact that your vagina can stretch up to 10 times its normal size to give birth, that you have the possibility to not rip or tear during labor if you give birth slowly and calmly, and that you can touch your own baby when you're giving birth, that you can receive your own baby. And those that knowledge will give you confidence during labor to trust during the most scary moments that your body is capable of giving birth and that you can do this safely. I'm not advocating that women go out and give birth under the trees, or on the beach. I think some women do want to do that, but most women want more support during labor. But I would like to tell the story of the Bushman woman who was there was an anthropologist who studied women in the Bushman community in the 1950s in the Kalahari Desert. And she observed how women gave birth in those communities. And for those women, birth was a rite of passage. It was a very, very special time. It was almost like a test that she had to see that she could pass. Once she passed the test of giving birth by herself, then she was welcomed into the group of women in the community as a woman. She was no longer a young girl. And she had to leave the group, the tribe, during her labor. At some point during her labor, she had to walk away from the group, and she had to find a place quite close to the settlement, but not close enough to be seen. And she had to find a bush or a tree or a shelter and make a place where she could give birth. And then she would give birth, and she would give birth to the placenta, and she would disconnect the cord with her teeth, and she would pick her baby up, and when she felt ready, she would walk back to the settlement with her baby. And after that, she would be welcomed and cared for the next 7 days by the other women in the settlement. And this was her test. It was an initiation that she had to go through to prove that she was now a woman in the tribe who was capable of giving birth by herself. And, you know, in those circumstances of Bushmen living under very natural circumstances, harsh circumstances, it was a very important rite of passage that she was able to give birth and the baby survive that process. And it was very, very precious, because for a Bushman family, giving birth was a rare event. They didn't have many children because of the harsh circumstances they lived in. So I think women need to see birth as an initiation, and you know, a cesarean is an initiation of a kind as well. So we're not putting down, or we're not saying that having a cesarean makes you an unfit mother. Not at all. A cesarean, you carry a baby, and a cesarean is a really scary operation, and you give birth to that baby, and your body has carried that baby, and you recover from a cesarean, and it takes a strong woman to do that. And I just found that so many women after the cesarean have come to a deeper sense of deeper questions about themselves, and a deeper hunger and a deeper thirst for knowledge about how their bodies work. And that is the reason why so many women then come to find a midwife who will help them experience a natural birth, because there's a hunger in a woman to complete the process of birth, even if she has been violated in her childhood, even if she has been raped, and she doesn't want to experience a baby coming through her vagina because it might trigger the trauma that she experienced. There's still a hunger deep inside her to finish the process of conception, which is giving birth. Obviously, some women can't give birth vaginally, and they need to be respected and supported in every way. I'm just describing the women who can give birth vaginally after they've had a cesarean section, and what an empowering experience that can be for them. And for all women giving birth, you know, it's not just someone who's had trauma, you know, who may be afraid of giving birth. Any woman can be confident that she has the capacity to give birth, and she should be given the right. She should be given the support to go through the process of the labor if she's healthy, and to at least have a trial of labor and make the attempt to give birth vaginally.
Yeah. There's another question. It says pregnancy and birth classes usually come at a price which many women cannot afford. It would be great if there could be NPOs that give these classes for free, which would make it more accessible to women who are not able to pay, so that they be able to empower themselves, especially the first-time moms. Do you maybe, I know you're linked with a lot of NPOs.
Am I going to start that NPO? Maybe. Maybe, but not yet. Just because finding the space and the time in my life to start an NPO is going to be difficult. But I think there are a lot of online classes now, and I do know of free classes, and I think it's a fantastic gift to offer per class, say, to subsidize one person to attend a class for free. And I'm certainly happy to do that. And then those women need to go on and empower other women. And so we can start a chain effect where the women in the community are actually empowered and can support each other, because that's what we need. We need more women in low income communities. And I do regard myself as having been serving the privileged, although I have served a very wide demographic. And the birth center that I support now serves both the lower and the higher socioeconomic groups by giving women a range of levels at which they can access maternity care. So the lower socioeconomic groups will pay less to access similar level of maternity care at the birth center where I work. Excuse me, I've got a little hiccup there. But I think, yes, we need to start an NPO in South Africa so that rural women and also women of different languages, it's difficult for me to teach the Zulu woman or the Xhosa woman or the Sotho woman, in their language. So we need women from those backgrounds who will come and learn and be educated about pregnancy and how to support women in the birth process, and then take it back to their communities.
So Jackie, I think Jackie is also a trained, or
I hope that
she is
answers
a trained.
your question.
It does. I think she is a trained doula, or going to be trained. She must just rectify me. And she's also a mother of 6. That's okay. All home birth babies. So yeah, she is definitely a advocate for these kind of initiatives. Karen, maybe just talk about baby. So now you have the baby, you've given birth. How do you prepare? Because I know for the first 10 days or so, you guys also walk with a woman afterwards to check up more so the woman than as well as the baby, and see that they latch properly and all of these things. What are some of the key things you need to look out for after you've given birth?
Well, I advocate for women for mothers and babies not being separated after birth. I think that's the first key principle that should be followed after the birth, so that the baby comes straight onto the mother's body, skin to skin. She regulates the baby's first breath by the warmth of her body, by her heartbeat, by her temperature, by her breathing rate, and her voice. The baby recognizes her voice. The baby recognizes her smell, and the baby opens his eyes and wants to see what his mum looks like for the first time in his life, because he's been inside her body, or she's been inside the body, and she wants to start making the connections between this body, this voice, and the vision, the sight. What does this mother look like? And babies bond to the shape of a mother's face. So the eyes, the nose, the mouth, and they then associate that person with the person who is their mother, the one who loves them, the one who feeds them, one who cares for them. And babies are very dependent after birth. They really need all our attention. Those first 3 months, really difficult for the mum because the baby is 24/7 job. And, you know, in the first 3 months, you don't even know how you get to the loo and how you wash your face. And because it just feels like this baby needs your attention all the time. If it's not eating, it needs to be changed. If it's not being changed, it's got a wind. If it hasn't got a wind, it's tired and needs to go to sleep, and you're just exhausted. So one of the most important things is to slow down your life. Don't try and go back to work. I know women do it, but for at least 3 months to 4 months, if you can, to take the time off and just to be with your baby and feed the baby when the baby's hungry. Babies are clever too, you know. They tell you when they're hungry. They will cry when they have a wet nappy. Some babies hate to have a wet nappy. Some babies hate to have poo in their nappy. They will cry when they have a poo nappy. So it's not just that they cry when they're hungry. They cry when they're uncomfortable. They cry when they've got a wind. They cry when they're hungry. They cry when their nappy's dirty. And sometimes they just cry because they want to be with you, and they want to be rocked, and they want to be held, and they want to be warm. Babies need to be warm, and the best place for them is next to the mother's body. And latching, I think the best advice I can give is during your pregnancy, you need to prepare. You need to look at your nipples. Do they pop out? Are they flat against your body? Are they big nipples? Are they small nipples? Work with your nipples. Learn how to express your breast milk so that when the baby comes, there is breast milk in the breast and there's some colostrum in the nipple, and the baby gets a reward straight away. That really encourages the baby to suckle and then bring in the milk. So when the baby suckles, that is what helps to bring in the milk. In the first 3 days, you have colostrum, and on the third day, your breasts suddenly fill like grapes and full of juice, and then the colostrum changes to breast milk, and then babies tend to settle a little bit on the third day because now they feel full. In the first 3 days, they need to suck a lot on the breast, and that's good to allow them to do that. And then once the milk is flowing, then they start to settle and they start to learn to sleep for an hour or so in between the breastfeeds. And to carry your baby in a sling, carry your baby around with you, and don't, get help, get relatives, get friends to help you with meals, get relatives to help you with housework, and just focus on being a mother. It's exhausting. It really is in those first 3 months, but it does pass. They do grow.
Yeah. So, okay. So we talked about pregnancy. We talked about babies. What other advice maybe that you can give as mothers or the mothers that is going to give birth soon? Besides the advice you already gave, maybe additional while we're talking that you can maybe give them into preparing their minds, I think, more for what is coming than their bodies. Because, like you always told me, the elephant, no one tells the elephant when to give birth. No one tells any animal when to give birth. It just happens. And you always had the balloon. It's like, if your vagina doesn't want to open, we will help it open. It will happen. Just allow it to happen. And I think a lot of the fear also comes with the fact that we have a due date. Maybe you can explain that maybe. What is a due date? Because I think we get stuck with a due date, and then if the baby doesn't want to come, it brings more anxiety.
It's true. So there's a few questions there. The one
Yeah.
is about the epino. An epino is a little device that looks like a balloon that you insert into your vagina, and you inflate it with air a little bit more, so that it's a little bit bigger every day. So it's a balloon maybe that size, and then every day you inflate it a little bit more until your vagina can stretch and accommodate a balloon that is the size of the baby's head, which would be 10 centimeters. And this can allay a lot of anxiety about how the baby's going to come out, because most of us can't imagine with the first baby how the baby is going to come out of this tiny little hole between our legs. I mean, we can barely get something in there, never mind get a baby's head out. So the Epino is available online. It's quite expensive, but it does work very well to reassure mothers that they have the capacity, they have the stretchability, and that their bodies can do it. The other thing is not to rush the birth process, to allow the baby to come slowly. And this is something that most midwives and doctors are not aware of. You know, the baby has to come out within a certain time, and they don't allow time for the perineum, which is the skin between the legs around the vaginal opening, to stretch. And it's like, you know, the first time with everything, it takes time to stretch. It takes 9 months to grow a baby, and then we must get it out in 5 minutes. It's nonsense. You know, give yourself a bit of leeway there. It takes 9 months to make a baby. It's not going to take 9 months to get it out, but maybe 9 hours of labor and more than 9 minutes to push it out. You know, sometimes it takes an hour, sometimes it takes 2 hours, and that's okay. As long as the baby is in a good condition and the heart rate is fine, you can continue. And the mother needs to rest. The other thing that I want to talk about, which you mentioned, was what can a mother do to help herself? So there's one thing that happens with every animal who's giving birth, and that is they breathe. They keep breathing, and it's important to keep breathing and to focus on the breath. And one of the things that is really important is to slow the breathing down. So when mothers are in pain and they're anxious, they tend to breathe very quickly. And what that does is it makes us hyperventilate. And when we hyperventilate, we feel faint. So the way to manage that is to slow our breathing down. So when you breathe in through the nose, and you hold the breath. You fill your air with lungs, and then when you breathe out, you breathe very slowly. And purse your lips and slow the breathing down, so that you can even hold your breath for a few seconds before breathing out. And don't breathe out quickly, because that will give you hyperventilation. But breathe out and hold it back. Sort of purse your lips and hold the breath back and breathe it out very slowly. So the slower you can breathe, the more oxygen you're going to give to your baby. The more oxygen you're going to give to your baby, the stronger the baby, and the more the baby's going to help you in the labor. And the more oxygen you can hold in your body, the less pain you're going to feel. So the breathing is really important. The fibers in the uterus contract. In other words, they squeeze to help the body to squeeze the baby out. And it's that squeezing of the fibers in the muscle that elicits a different sensation. Some women don't even call it pain. It's a kind of discomfort. And the more oxygen you can hold in your cells, the less discomfort you're going to feel. So the breathing is really, really important. Also, the breathing relaxes us. When we breathe more slowly, we feel more relaxed. We feel less anxious. When we breathe breathe fast, we feel more anxious.
Mm.
So it's just a different way of working with the body. And the other way is to teach yourself to relax during the pregnancy. So set the scene, switch off the lights, make the room warm, light a few candles, put on some nice music, and relax your body. Lie down on the bed, comfort yourself with some pillows between your legs and pillow behind your back, like I'm sitting now, and just be able to close your eyes, breathe deeply, and relax your body from your toes all the way up through your musculature, through your thighs, through your hips, through your stomach, through your chest, through your arms, your hands, your neck, your chin, until you are completely relaxed in your body. And then you're breathing a very rhythmic, slow breath. And teaching yourself to do this during pregnancy means that it's a skill that you learn that you can use during the labor to keep yourself calm, to keep yourself relaxed. The more relaxed and the calmer you are during labor, the better it goes. And what was the other question that you kind of
The
threw
due
in
date.
three
The,
questions one after the other? What was the other one you
the due
wanted me
date.
to answer? The due date, of course. So a mum is due in a 6 week period, anytime from 36, 37 weeks to 42 weeks is the time when you can, the period when you can give birth. And actually, a due date gives us a false expectation because we have a date. Let's say we have a date, the 26th of November, and the 26th of November comes and goes, and we still haven't given birth. And we start to panic. And why haven't we given? And we get tired. By the end of a pregnancy, is a lot of extra weight, and we're tired of being pregnant. The body just wants to end this pregnancy now. And so many of us feel that way at the end of a pregnancy. And in actual fact, many women, most women, end up giving birth around about 41 weeks. So 1 week after the due date is the time when most first time mothers will go into labor and give birth. In actual fact, it's about 10 days after the actual date that a scan or a doctor or a midwife will give you. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is that everyone is different and everyone has different cycles and everyone falls pregnant at a different time. And so it's different for every woman. Some women will be close to the due date and will go into labor close to the due date and give birth bang on the due date. And every pregnancy they have, they will give birth at that time. And other women will give birth early, and maybe 39 weeks, and that will be the time when they give birth. Other women will give birth at 41 and a half weeks, and that will be normal for them. So everyone has a slightly different range of normal, and that can be any time from 37 to 42 weeks. So it's a 5 week window. So your due date is actually a 5 week window. And, families put pressure on us. Our families say, well, isn't the baby here yet? Why are you still pregnant? So the thing to tell your family is to make it further away so that they don't get anxious and put pressure on you to give birth earlier. So that you don't have to tell them, well, the baby's not actually due yet. And just stretch the date or say, yes, my baby's due in January, not quite sure when in January, but sometime in January, and maybe probably the later January than early January, and then they can relax and take the pressure off because many women feel pressurized by family members about when they should give birth.
Okay. This was a
And I
lovely
think
session. Just
also the due date. So if you feel you need reassurance, go and have a scan. Go back to your doctor and say, just check that the baby is fine.
yeah. Um just to end off maybe. What does being a woman mean to you? seeing that we are in Women's Month.
I'm losing you. I
Oh,
don't know
can
if
you
you
not
can
hear
hear
me?
me. I lost
I
you
can
there.
still I can still hear you. Can you hear me? Let me just make louder. What does
Hello?
a woman mean?
Can you hear
I
me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me? Okay. I think we lost her, but it's also at the end of our session. I think it was a very informative session. So now we got what to do when you are pregnant, while you're pregnant, and also what to do when you have your baby. So just give it time. You guys, your body knows what it's supposed to be doing. Educate yourself while you're still pregnant, and don't wait like to the last when you're like at the last and tired and drained and just want this to be over. Um, kind of. I think we have. Hi.
Hello. I'm back.
uh, yeah. No, I was just saying as we end off, maybe you can maybe just give us your interpretation of what does a woman mean, especially in this age, and seeing that we're in Women's Month. What does that being a woman mean to you, and maybe just advice to other women?
Well, that's a big question. It requires a big answer. Um, Women are the creators of the world, and we have much more power than we realize. And it is up to us to take that power, to forge a way forward our creativity and to stand up and be counted in this world, to advocate for each other, to advocate for our children, and to create a world that is more loving, that is uh, cleaner, that is kinder than the one that we have. We uh, with gentle birth, um, we will heal the Mother Earth. That is my vision for the future. And as women become empowered through gentle birth, they know that they are strong and that they can achieve uh, unforeseen, unthinkable successes in their lives for themselves and for others. That is my vision for women. And we can rise up together. When we work together, we have more power. And we need to support each other. We need to advocate for each other. We need to be glad when another person wins. And we need all women to be winners in this world. And we need we need groups of women to achieve things together for our world, and especially during this time of COVID, we need to march together for our rights. We need to um, we need to march together to support women during these difficult times and help each other mother our children, because mothering is one of the hardest jobs in the world. And we need to support each other to look after our children and to protect our children from predators in this world, and teach them that they can protect themselves, teach them how to protect themselves, teach them who their protectors are, their friends are. And yeah, my wish is that women be strong and are able to fight for the values that we hold dear, for our children's well-being and our children's future in this world.
Yeah. With that, I think we're going to end off. Jackie is saying absolutely right. We need to support each other. Um, So yes, Marianne, I want to thank you again for giving us your time. I know you're a very busy lady. I asked her today, should we cancel? Is there maybe an emergency birth going on there? And she said no, she's still going on. So thank you for your time. I know it's very precious. And again, I know I've told you this many times. Thanks for saving my life just by helping me
Oh,
birth to my
Bianca,
daughter. I mean,
you are
it's
so
absolutely,
beautiful. I
it's
just love
absolutely
you and I
phenomenal.
love your daughter, and you are just, you make me happy to see your face because you've just come into yourself, and I'm so grateful. Thank you for everything that you do for your community, and I love you so
Oh, thank you. No, no crying today. No
much.
crying today. No crying today. So yeah, I just everyone is saying thank you for the informative session, Marianne. So you helped a lot of women
Absolute
again.
pleasure.
We
Thank
are just
you.
waiting for your MPO to come so that you can train all of these lovely mothers so that we can help others. So yes, we want to say thank you to Marianne. Tomorrow we're talking to a lady so we're talking to another facet of being a woman, and that is woman that is other do you call disabled? She will rectify me tomorrow, and she will no, that is on next week. So tomorrow we're talking with woman in cancer with cancer. We're talking about that. We're having that topic tomorrow. So join us again between 8 and 9, and then we will talk about how women carry themselves through when they go through cancer. And so again, we want to say thank you to Marianne for tonight's session. I felt like I've given birth again. Yeah, I think I'm done with babies. We are done, so you don't have to come and catch any more babies. Uh, I have my four. I'm
Yeah.
complete. It's an even number. But again, thank you for all you've done, and thanks for all the lives you saved through birth. And so now that we know better, we will go out and help other women do better. So again, thanks again for joining us tonight, and thank you. See you again tomorrow night. Bye.
Thank you so much for hosting. Bye bye, Bianca. Bye bye.
Bye.